So what is Lido DAO? What is Lido? What is Lido Staked Ether? What is this project and what does it do? And should you get involved or is it worth your time? Okay. I got a question from somebody from social media who wrote to me and asked me if Lido, LDO, was a good coin, a good token. Is it worth looking into? Is it worth investing in? And although I can't officially give financial advice, I can give a token review and an analysis of the token and break it down, explain what it is, talk about the tokenomics and whether or not I believe that it's worth it for you to have Lido, okay? So we're gonna get into that. If you watch the whole video, we're gonna talk about all of that. I'm gonna simplify what Lido is, and I'm gonna give you hopefully a good explanation so you can use that, you understand what it is, and then you can make your own decision based on your own research. Don't just trust me. I'm just a random guy on the internet. Don't trust, but verify, okay? So we're gonna talk about what Lido DAO is and everything like that. But before I do, I need to remind you guys, nothing in this video is financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor. I'm not your financial counselor. What you decide to do with your money is up to you, and you need to take responsibility for your buys and your sells, okay? So with that being said, let's get into the video. So where do we start? Okay, so I guess the first thing that we need to start with is what Lido is, okay? So what Lido is we need to start with the fact that Lido is a smart contract and LDO is a token on Ethereum, okay? And essentially what Ethereum works like, how Ethereum works is Ethereum works on a proof of stake consensus mechanism. Now I've talked about this in other videos, the differences between proof of work and proof of stake, but essentially proof of work is mining from Bitcoin mining, okay? So if you want to secure the network and you want to create blocks on the Bitcoin blockchain, you need to mine. You need to get a machine. You need to use that machine, which takes up a lot of electricity, and you need to solve complex problems on the through the Bitcoin algorithm in order to create blocks. And then the block reward for creating that block, you get rewarded with essentially the inflation, okay? Now the way that this works with Ethereum, that's Bitcoin, that's proof of work, okay? Now the way that this works with Ethereum is that Ethereum, instead of getting a machine and instead of verifying transactions and instead of creating blocks through mining, what you have to do is you have to lock up coins, okay? You have to lock up Ethereum in order to, and then you have to run your own node and your own validator, and then you have to validate transactions, and then you create blocks that way, okay? And then you get the inflation from Ethereum by essentially staking your coins, staking them, aka you lock up your coins and you agree not to sell them, essentially, okay? Now, you need 32 Ethereum in order to do this, okay? With the current consensus mechanism with Ethereum, you need 32 Ethereum to stake. I'm pretty sure that could change. It's subject to change. The ETH validator limit could raise, it could lower, but as of right now, 32 Ethereum. It actually could be a little bit higher with the Petra upgrade actually now, because I think that might have been one of the changes that the most recent Ethereum upgrade made it. But for this video, let's just say that it's 32 Ethereum, or you need a decent amount of Ethereum in order to stake, in order to become your own validator, your own node, okay? Now, the problem here is that what if you don't have 32 ETH, right? What if you don't have the amount of ETH required? Sorry guys, the video cut out, but we're gonna continue. Now, back to what I was saying. What if you don't have 32 ETH just laying around, right? And since most people don't have 32 Ethereum laying around, then you essentially there has to be a solution for this, right? Now, the solution for that Lido offers is that essentially what you do is that if you don't have 32 Ethereum, but you want to stake your ETH, what they do is they essentially say, hey, we will allow you to deposit your ETH into our smart contract. Okay, now ETH is a smart contract platform. You could build smart contracts on the Ethereum network, right? Lido is one of these smart contracts. So what Lido says is, hey, you don't have 32 ETH, no problem. You deposit ETH into our smart contract, and then what ETH does, not what ETH does, what Lido does is that Lido then takes your ETH. Let's say you have, as an example, let's say you have 2 or 3 Ethereum, right? Let's say you have 2 or 3 Ethereum, and let's say you deposit 2 or 3 ETH into the Lido smart contract, right? Now, what they do is they will take other people who deposited 2 or 3 Ethereum, or not 32 ETH. You can have 32 ETH if you want, if you really want to stake that way, but basically it takes all the people who deposit their ETH and it pulls their ETH together, and then it allows Lido on the back end to stake your Ethereum for you. Okay. Now this helps a lot of people for a lot of reasons. The first thing that it does is it allows you to be able to stake your ETH without having 32. We just talked about that. But also, guys, running your own node or running your own validator on Ethereum takes some technical knowledge that a lot of people don't have. Okay. On top of that, you have to at least have some maintenance in order to run an Ethereum validator. Okay. And if you screw something up, or if your node stops working or something, you get what's called slash. So you get punished essentially for not doing your job as an Ethereum validator, meaning you're a 32 Ethereum. If you stop validating transactions, or if your node shuts off or stops working, or is not in line with the other nodes, then you get slashed. Slash means that your Ethereum that you have staked gets stolen. It starts to get taken out. Okay, it starts to get taken away from you. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. Not everybody is smart enough. Not everybody has enough technical knowledge in order to run an Ethereum validator. So what Lido says is, hey, you don't have to have technical knowledge. You don't have to set up your own node. You don't have to run your own validator. You don't have to stress about that. You also don't need 32 Ethereum. We're going to do all that for you. You're going to deposit your Ethereum into our smart contract, and then with that smart contract, we then take your ETH and we put your ETH and everybody else's ETH that deposits with us into a pool, and then we stake your Ethereum for you. Okay. Now, obviously, how they make money and what their business model is essentially, the way that they make money is that they take about a 10% fee of the staking profits. So instead of you, let's say on a monthly income, an Ethereum validator, as just a pure example, just takes, let's say the profit is $2,000 a month. They take 10% of that, right? They take 10% of that. So they take $200. They make money for staking your Ethereum, and then pulling your money together and doing all the technical background work for you, and then you get the rest of the yield. Okay, so 10% of the network, or not 10% of the network, 10% of the reward that you get for staking your Ethereum, they take as a fee. Okay, now the other thing that's cool about Lido is that when you stake your ETH with Lido, they give you what's called an LST. Okay, now for those of you guys who don't know, an LST or an LSD, sorry, not an LST, LSD, which is a liquid staking derivative, okay, or a liquid staking token. Okay, now what is this? Okay, so when you stake your Ethereum, one other thing that Lido does that is pretty cool, is that they give you your STETH. They give you your STETH. Okay, they give you a liquid derivative. A derivative token is just a representation of a token. So in Lido's case, the derivative that you get is STETH. Okay, STETH. So when you lock up your money with Ethereum, or not with Ethereum, with Lido, when you lock your money up with Lido, you get a derivative of that Ethereum. Okay, the reason why this is useful, you guys, is because when you lock your money up, you can't put that capital to work anymore, right? You can't sell it, you can't take profits, you can't do anything. Okay, so what Lido said was, hey, when you stake your Ethereum with us, what we're going to do is that in exchange, when you deposit your ETH, you get to claim a derivative token called STETH. So let's say you deposit 10 ETH into Lido, you can then pull out 10 STETH, which is a derivative that is that is essentially the same value as ETH most of the time, okay? So now, the way that it also works is that, let's say so that way you could use that STETH and you could use that and you can move it around on the blockchain, and you can, you could do a lot of things with that ETH, okay? Now, the negative part about this is that in order for you to unlock your Ethereum out of Lido, you need to basically give back your STETH in order to get your ETH back, right? So you can't just take that STETH and run around and lose the money and then expect to get your ETH reward. In order for you to get that ETH reward back, you need to get STETH. But on the positive side is, so if you lose your money, if you lose your STETH, let's say you stake your real ETH into Lido, and then you lose that money, and then they give you STETH and you lose that STETH, you can't get your Ethereum back out of the Lido contract. They keep it, right? They keep it. But if let's say you deposit your ETH in Lido, they give you STETH, and then let's say you double your Ethereum, then you just made free Ethereum while you were staking and getting a yield with Lido, right? Not bad, okay? Now, obviously, Lido to a certain degree is counterparty risk, but it's essentially somebody staking your Ethereum for you, all right? But with that being said, a lot of people don't, like I said, for a lot of people, I think the benefits outweigh the costs in terms of using Lido, staking your ETH, and getting a yield. Now, if you guys have watched previous videos of mine, I don't even think it's worth it to stake Ethereum, all right? And you guys have to be careful with derivative tokens in general, all right? Staking your Ethereum is not worth it. The yield's not really that impressive, okay? So it's not even really worth it. You're better off going on DeFi elsewhere and being more of an active yield farmer and making yield that way, okay? So that's just something to keep in mind. You guys have to weigh out the benefits and the costs. But for those of you guys who want to stake your Ethereum and get a derivative token, just something to think about, all right? Even at least just knowing how Lido works is better than nothing, okay? So that's what it is, okay? It allows you to stake your ETH without having 32 Ethereum. It allows you to not have to deal with any of the work required, okay? To run your own validator on the network. And on top of that, it gives you a liquid staking token that basically allows you to move your money. Even though your real money is locked up, they give you a derivative token so that you can then still have that ETH liquid while you're staking with Lido, which is pretty cool, all right? A couple years ago, this was all the craze in DeFi, and they were talking about liquid staking tokens, and it is pretty interesting, okay? Now, there's other competitors. In terms of competitors, the other one that comes to mind is Rocket Pool. Okay, Rocket Pool is also a good liquid staking platform, okay? But it's essentially Lido is basically the number one dominant liquid staking platform on the entire Ethereum network, okay? I believe they take up about 30% of the staking on Ethereum is done through Lido, okay? So it's obviously in a lot of demand, all right? The demand is very high for this stuff. It beats being a validator in most cases. Most people are okay with giving away 10% of the ETH reward in order to get those other benefits, convenience, right? Essentially, that's what Lido is doing, is it's allowing more liquidity to be locked up, okay, more ETH to be locked up. It's allowing more accessibility to staking. And then it also allows you to stay liquid and not have to deal with any of the pain. And a lot of people are willing to take that 10% fee, obviously, because like I said, the Lido DAO controls about 30% of the staked Ethereum is with Lido, okay? Now, Rocket Pool has a little bit more. They've caught up to market share over the past couple of years as well. Rocket Pool is also a good solution, okay? They also have a liquid staking token. But, like I said, if we talk about tokenomics, we talk about supply demand of Lido. Most of the supply is unlocked, so there's not a whole lot of inflation of the LDO token, okay? And the demand is high, all right? The demand obviously is high, 30% of ETH. TVL is extremely high. I wrote here 20 billion. So when I did some research and I looked at some specific stats, 20 billion total value locked. So a lot of people are locking up their money on Lido, okay? $713 million in fees yearly, right? That's nothing to sneeze at. That's that's a pretty profitable operation for crypto and DeFi. Okay, a lot of DeFi platforms are not profitable. Lido is extremely profitable. Okay, Lido is extremely profitable. Okay, so the other thing is that what is the token for? What is the LDO token for, right? And essentially, what the LDO token is for is essentially it's essentially a governance token. Okay, so they give you this illusion of, they essentially give you this illusion of voting rights. Okay, so depending on how much of the supply that you have of Lido, of LDO, essentially you're able to vote on improvements or changes in the protocol, similar to a stock. When you own shares of a company, you basically have voting rights, and you're allowed to vote on important managerial decisions at the yearly stockholder meeting, at the annual stockholder meeting. Well, it's kind of the same thing with Lido. If you own Lido tokens, then the proportion of the supply that you own, all right, you get to vote. Okay, now a lot of this is bullshit, if I'm being honest with you, in crypto, because the team in most cases secretly holds more than 50% of the supply, so the team can just vote for whatever they want to do anyway. So it's basically fake governance, right? So the token is, the token is a governance token, which means that you have voting rights essentially, and in a lot of cases the team owns more than 50% of the supply anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, and then when you actually vote with Lido, with your Lido tokens that you own, when you actually participate in the voting, it rewards you with more Lido tokens. So it also is an incentive token to have you vote on the protocol, vote on the proposal. And the idea behind it is that if you have more stake in the game, no pun intended, right? If you have more stake in the game, then you will vote for what's best for the protocol, right? Similar to how if you own more stock, if you have more stake in the stock and you have more to lose, then you're going to vote for things that are good, for the future of the project. Okay, so it's a governance token. Okay, governance tokens are kind of an illusion, at least right now. Okay, but with that being said, that's what the token does. Okay, now in terms of the team's very, very involved in the Ethereum community. The Constantine guy, I believe, is trying to create another version of the Ethereum Foundation. He's very, very influential. Having 30% of the staked Ethereum on the network is a very powerful position to be in. Okay, so they're very experienced. A lot of these guys have previous experience in computer programming, finance, banking, etc., like that. So these guys are pretty competent guys. All right, they're not super charismatic, but they've been around for a very, very long time. Very long time. They were Bitcoiners. They were OG Ethereum guys, and now they're building some of the most important infrastructure, okay, of Ethereum, of the Ethereum network, right? Which leads me to the last part of the video, which is, should you buy Lido? Is Lido worth it? Okay, now, not financial advice, but if you guys have watched my previous videos, I've said that every single network, every single layer 1 blockchain has a starter pack. Okay, that is a stablecoin, that is a decentralized exchange, so a swap, like a way to swap between tokens. Okay, you have liquid staking, which is what Lido is, right? You have lending, borrowing, you have a top meme coin, you may have perpetual futures trading, you might have all these other things. Okay, but that's essentially the starter pack. Every single blockchain has versions of this. It has a way to lend and borrow, has a way to swap, it has a way to liquid stake the tokens if it's a developed ecosystem, right? So all these, essentially this is just one of the infrastructure plays on Ethereum. So if you want the Ethereum infrastructure, if you want to buy some of the altcoins on the broader Ethereum network, then Lido is a great place to start. Like I said, the supply's out, demand is high. So I've said this in my previous videos. If you guys have Ethereum, anywhere from 20 to 40%, depending on your conviction level, can go to all the altcoins on the Ethereum network. Okay. And this is just one of those plays, okay? So if you guys want some infrastructure for Ethereum, getting a small bag of Lido based on your position, okay, is a decent one, okay? So that's what Lido is. I broke it down. I hope I gave you a decent breakdown of what Lido is, how to use it, and whether or not I think it's worth it. If you have any more questions about Lido, brother, for the person who wrote to me, I will be sending you this video after this. But if you guys have any more questions about Lido, write down below in the comments. If you have anything to contest, if you have any objections that you want to talk about, they're welcome in the comments. All right, I'm not opposed to criticism or feedback. All right, so hopefully that this video finds you well, brother. Okay, so thank you guys. Hope you guys have a blessed day. Hope you guys enjoyed this token review. Thank you and bless up.